What's up, guys? So today we're looking at the two cold steel FGX Balisongs, which are quite interesting and unique. Both of these knives are completely made out of plastic, okay, or grivery. There's two styles here. This one has a double-edged, fully serrated, with a very interesting, really thick point, okay, which adds a little bit of strength there if you were to actually stab something with this. And then there is a Tanto version, okay, plain edge, which you can see here. All right. So when these first hit the market, I was really excited to get these. I really wanted both of them, if nothing else, just for my collection. All right. But I was curious, you know, I wanted to see what they'd be like. And definitely not quite what I expected. I was thinking that these were going to be a little bit heavier in the hand, as well as smaller. They're lighter than I thought, and they're much larger and chunkier than I thought. So I ended up buying these from Knife Center. You guys know I do a ton of trading. I don't always buy stuff. In fact, it's kind of rare that I just outright buy knives. But these are so darn cheap, I decided to get them before they were gone. It's kind of interesting because there's a couple different dealers that I usually go to first, and they just didn't stock them. Either that or they were sold out or whatever. So I guess only some places had these. Knife Center I've used before in the past. I had a great experience. Shipping was fairly quick, you know, so no complaints there at all. It's also a good source to price shop. Mom knife that I got her was like it's a little bit smaller than the one that I did a video on, but it also had a fork on the other end. And she loves camping utensils and stuff, so it was a nice surprise for her. Anyway, I decided to get these right away before the market dried up. I do feel like these won't last forever. It's kind of interesting too because they have the two different models here. This model is very kind of hard to modify if you want to make it a trainer. This one is not, okay, because this is just plastic, and they even say this themselves, if you don't want to get cut, because these do have usable edges, which we'll look at in a second, you can just simply grind this down. You can grind this down on the concrete, out in your driveway, a tree, whatever you want, to actually take this edge off. And I wouldn't just, you know, do one direction. I would kind of sweep like this, all right, as you're drawing back and forth, so that you're rounding this nice, you know, edge, so that if it does, you know, hit you, obviously it's not going to cut. You can also grind down the tip. So because it is a plastic and it's easy to manipulate, that's a good thing. So if you want to get a $13 trainer, you certainly could. However, for light practice, because it's an awkward size and an awkward weight, I don't think it's a good trainer to be a first trainer. Obviously, for me, you know, I liked it in my collection. That's why I got them. It is kind of a novelty item. They are very, very usable. Like I said, they do have sharp edges, even though this is 100% plastic or grivery. All right, so the idea here too is that it's not going to pick up on a metal detector because there is no metal parts. It has plastic pins. The handles are plastic, the blade's plastic. These pins look like they are maybe pushed in. So you see large flats, all right, for the latch pin, as well as the pivot pins. When you go on the other side, you can see it's just a smaller end, almost like how a nail would look, you know. I don't know if these, like I said, they're pressed in or they're glued in. Don't really know. All I can tell you is that from some flipping, it hasn't gotten loose or anything. There's just enough play that you'd want in a balisong, so it's not sloppy, but it's not super tight either. But yeah, so let's take a quick look at how these things actually cut. Got some cardboard here. All right, first this Tanto, so we want to see the penetration, right? So obviously it penetrates. Start from the edge here and do a cut. So it's crude, as you can see. All right, but it does cut. Let's try this one, which is a little bit more effective, especially on materials like this. All right, kind of tearing it and ripping it. Penetration. You can easily penetrate and cut your way out. All right, but starting from the edge with a traditional sharp knife, it's a little bit different. All right, if you watch Cold Steel's videos on this, you can see they attack some meat because that's what they do, and it's awesome and very fun to watch. You know, testing on cardboard, you can see it just looks like a really dull knife, but I can tell you that even with a minor, you know, flipping this around, if it kind of just grabs the skin real quick, it will cut open your skin, all right? So definitely do not treat these like toys. They are not toys. I would treat them just like any other sharp knife. Something to keep in mind here, okay, just from that one test, all right, let me zoom in here. You can see it has a very fragile edge, and it already put some markings, okay, or dented the plastic on the edge of this one. All right, so you can see that just in the cardboard. So these are not knives that you can use over and over again, all right? However, if you never use these edges for anything at all right, you could use this effectively in self-defense. Maybe not so much slashing, but obviously stabbing. They have a lot of rigidity. These tips are beefed up, so they're nice and fat, okay? So they will withstand quite a bit of force without breaking or anything. So as defensive items, they would certainly work. Definitely far, far, far from my first choice, as well as, again, consider the legal ramifications of actually using something like this. The general public do not see these as anything but weapons. So personally, I would never actually carry and or use this in a self-defense situation, but I'm here to tell you that they would actually work. Now, flipping these is actually pretty awkward, all right? I've handled dozens and dozens of different Balisongs, very, very light ones, plastic ones as well, like the Squid Industries Squiddy. That is a fantastic trainer, albeit, you know, more expensive. It's more like, you know, 3 to 4 times the price of this. But that is just super smooth, really, really comfortable. This is not quite at that level. It has a similar feel in the fact that it is plastic, but it's more awkward, kind of like the Bottlefly, the original Bottlefly. It's just big and thick, and just compared to most other Balisong models out there, it doesn't mimic anything. It is definitely its own thing. Like I said, it was a lot larger and wider than I expected. Now, if we take a closer look here, you can see that it does have a functional latch on the bottom. All right, it does have tang pins, 2 tang pins, as well as tang cups. However, the retention of this latch, because it is a working latch, you'll notice when you get them, they kind of pop open and pop shut, okay? And that's because there's a little nub on both sides of the latch, not this pin, okay? But this little nub right here almost works kind of like a bearing and detent, okay? So on the inside of the handle, there's a tiny little detent on both sides, so that's kind of fitting in that position. So it clicks in place and unclicks, all right? When the knife is open, you can also lock it, and same thing. It almost clicks out, clicks in place. So it's relying less on the tension in between the handles on these pins. Again, everything's plastic. It's very easily marred and mushed and, you know, reshaped. So if they relied on this tension alone, and you actually did use this and flip it around, we get pretty sloppy pretty quick. So it's kind of smart to add that little feature on the bottom. So it does have a functional latch that, you know, both locks open and closed. Now, as far as actually flipping these things, right off the bat, this has a very, very untraditional Balisong blade style. There's a good reason why you don't see Balisongs that look like this. Having a double-edged Balisong that's fully serrated would be very limiting in moves that you can do. Simply put, and if you flip Balisong, you know this, a lot of times the hand comes in contact with the back of the blade. Okay, that's why in most cases the latch would be on the bite handle. It's called a bite handle because that's the handle in which when you're holding it, you can come in contact with that edge. All right. So generally speaking, most knives, most Balisongs I should say, are single-edged as opposed to double-edged, okay, so that you can do a lot of different manipulations that allow you to come in contact with the back of the blade. When you have a double-edged knife, that's just impossible. You can't have it touch you because everything's sharp. And this is sharp all the way down to here, all right? This straight edge portion, which is underneath where the serrations stop, is very, very sharp as well, both here. So you can't do a lot of different traditional manipulations with this knife, just something to definitely keep in mind. I can tell you that I used to have a Benchmade Model 46, which is a spear point blade, and although from factory it was single-edged, the spine portion was ground so thin that when I did certain manipulations, it would cut me open. It technically wasn't sharp, but it was just so thin that when it whacked my hand or my finger with enough force, it was thin enough to literally just slice me open. It was a very difficult Balisong design to actually flip and manipulate. So something to keep in mind as far as between these two models, this looks awesome. It is just super crazy, wicked looking. And if you're just buying to collect it, this is the one to pick. But if you have any, you know, any intention at all of flipping it, you might just want to go with this one for that simple fact that it is a much safer option. Cold Steel mentions that you can easily grind these sharp edges off because it is only plastic. You know, so if you like the look of a double-edged blade, that's fine, but just keep in mind it's going to be a lot smaller once you grind off all these serrations and maybe round that tip. All right, so yeah, I mean, as collector's items, I think they're awesome. As novelty items, they are through the roof cool. I got them for collecting purposes. I didn't get them because this is the go-to flipper. Now, since I got these, I have to say I probably only flipped them for about an hour collectively between both models. But they are quite awkward just because of their size and their weight. It's nothing like anything else on the market that I'm used to flipping. I've been flipping different Balisongs for many, many years. Like I said, I actually very quickly gravitated towards the Squid Industries Squiddy, even though, again, that's all plastic. I think it's a PVC plastic, but it's just so well done that it was very easy to manipulate, even though it was super lightweight in comparison to what I was used to. At this point, I want you to turn the volume up a little bit and just listen. So listening to this actually flip, it doesn't sound like any other Balisong. Also, you feel the resistance from the plastic on the plastic. It almost sounds like it's like a whirling noise because it's just plastic rubbing on plastic. The difference between this and pretty much every other knife that's made out of metal is that with a metal knife, obviously you can use some kind of grease or lubricant, an oil, to actually minimize the friction between those two pieces. With the plastic here, you can't really do that. The oil is not going to help anything as far as making it smoother. It just kind of is what it is. So as soon as you grab one out of the box and start flipping it, either you're going to like it or you're not going to like it. I would say more times than not, if you're used to flipping, you will not like flipping this knife. That's just my opinion. I didn't really like flipping it. I'd much rather grab, you know, something I'm used to. If this is like your first Balisong, there's obviously no reference, so it wouldn't make a difference. So all in all, they're not fun to flip. They're not easy to flip. If you carry them and use them somewhere, you're probably going to get into trouble, but I still love them. And honestly, for less than $13, can you really go wrong? So I'd suggest picking these up. If you don't have one in your collection, if you're into Balisong specifically, or if you're just into oddball knives, I would definitely get one for the price tag, but I wouldn't have high expectations as far as enjoying flipping it or actually using the thing. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have these, of course, I'd like to hear your opinions down below in the comment section, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.